Good everyone, I hope you guys have an amazing day. So this video is not about Salesforce. It's about the recording software I use to make my videos. I've been asked a few times, right? Hey, what recording software you use to make the videos? Okay, so I thought I might as well make a tiny video explaining the stuff I use. So I use a pretty basic stuff, right? I don't use fancy stuff to make my videos because I'm not really good at making fancy videos. That's the reason why my most of my videos are around tech stuff, right? It's pretty easy to make. If you're planning to start this route, right, then I think making a tech video is a pretty good way to go about it, because I do understand that not everyone has a great editing skills, and there is nothing wrong about that. I mean, you can always learn if that's what you're after. I don't have much patience to go and sit and edit, for 4 or 5 hours to, edit a video. Like some people do travel vlogs, some people do, different kind of stuff, right? That's a different areas of expertise. For me, I decide to, stick to Salesforce, or for that matter, technology stuff. So, to keep the story short, right? I use Ubuntu operating system. I don't use Windows because I don't like Windows. Windows is shite. I mean, no offense if you're a Windows lover. I don't use Mac. My partner uses Mac. I don't use it. I'm because I'm a core Unix guy. When I was young, when I was like 12, 13 years old, I used to play with Unix, right? I loved Unix. And Linux is way user friendly. I would say. I mean, most of the Unix users might disagree, but I do love Unix even today. I mean, if I get a hands onto it. But that being said, there I know I like to work with command prompt. That's pretty amazing, right? So I stick to Ubuntu, and you have more control over or your operating system. Because with Windows, they add a lot of stuff behind the scene. The DLLs are bulkier. Who knows what stuff they are, right? I mean, you just blindly trust them. So what I normally do, I buy a Windows machine, I reformat it and install, the Linux on it. That's all I do, right? That's because I like to code in Linux. I like to do stuff on Linux. So okay, so that's one of the reasons why I'm using Ubuntu for all kind of recording. So when you're using Ubuntu, most of the stuff comes free, right? I mean, you don't have to pay for most of the stuff, right? Because we got a lot of there's a huge open source community out there. So the for recording, right? I use this software, something called as you can see, that's already getting recorded. So I use something called Vocal Screen NG. Um, so um, so this is you can, what do? You can go to Google and you can say Vocal Screen NG. Um, so it is a pretty powerful recording software out there. You can get the GitHub code and you can install it. And it's open source, and it's, as you can see, that this interface is pretty amazing. And And yeah, it's very easy to use, right? You can use on Windows too if you like. I mean, I don't use Windows, so but I use it on Ubuntu. It's pretty it's I mean, it's the most nicest and easiest software I've seen out there to use, right? And big shout out to the developer who built this one. It's pretty amazing. So along with that, I use something called Pulse Audio. So this is something called Pulse Audio Volume Control. So this allows me to, uh, kill the echo sound and all other unwanted, sound noise cancellation in simple terms, right? This acts like a noise cancellation. So I got it configured. So what I normally do, I go to command prompt, I start this Pulse Audio OK. It starts this behind the scene, and to get it configured, I just need to configure certain stuff and add certain lines of tiny two lines of code to it. That's all I have to do. So that's pretty much I have to do, right? I mean, this is the software I use, and it generates a file for me behind the scene, and then most of the time I don't edit my file. It's just one go. and then I upload it. And just for thumbnails, I use a free software again. I use Libra, IRC and sorry, LibreOffice, and I built my thumbnail using this. So as you can see, I use pretty much free stuff, right? And it's pretty legal, right? I mean, everything is open source, so I don't use any fancy recording software. Yes, there are a few editing software as well on Ubuntu, so that's comes free as well. So that's one of the reason why I stick to Ubuntu. It's like a treat, right? Using Ubuntu is a treat. I'm a big, 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 big fan of Ubuntu. I remember back in the days when there used to be KDE. I used to contribute to the development stuff there. I really love. I'm very passionate about Ubuntu. Right? I mean, this is. I cannot imagine working on an operating system if it's not Unix or Linux based. Right? Yes, I do understand the Mac. Their OS is the kernel is based on Unix, so but the Mac is just it's like a expensive, fancy looking computer or a laptop. Just people think that you can do a lot of fancy stuff with that. Yes, I'm not disagreeing. You can do a lot of stuff with Mac, but personally speaking, I give me Ubuntu system any day. I have full control on the OS, so that's the beauty I like about Ubuntu. That's the reason why I use it. That's the reason why you see most of the stuff comes from my recording. You might have seen that interface looks a bit different because I use Ubuntu. Okay, so and it's I'm using 20 version of Ubuntu. I'm planning. I might upgrade it perhaps early next year. Um, yeah, and so yeah, that's the configuration I have. That's the setup I have, guys. I don't use much expensive stuff. So if you're someone who wanted to start out for the first time, you don't have much money to go and grab, you know, the software. You don't have money to buy, expensive video recording stuff. Uh, you can try to go for Ubuntu softwares, right? I mean, it's not that I can't afford it, right? That's not the reason why I use Ubuntu. Windows stuff is pretty cheap. It's not expensive, but the point is, I don't like Windows. I hate it. I mean, it's just a garbage. I mean, it's just a buggy, you know. If you really have time, right, look into the DLLs and try to decipher the DLLs what Windows sends you. And most of the time, you'll say, why the heck the DLLs are so bulky? Why it's consuming a lot of your space, right? And you can install Ubuntu in a pretty 10 years old machine and it works just fine, no problem whatsoever. Try installing Windows 11 on an old configuration. You might argue they're adding new features, yada 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 yada, but do you really use that stuff? To be honest, unless you are a pro, a developer who's building, virtual reality stuff, then yeah, you need very high-end config stuff. Even I build stuff on virtual reality, but I still use my Ubuntu machine to do so. So yeah, it works very well for me. So yeah, that's all I wanted to cover in this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, just give me a shout, right? So that being said, have an amazing weekend. Adios.